Hello and welcome to this lesson on estimating probability. You may have studied probability in the past and talked about the exact probabilities of certain situations or a theoretical probability. For example, flipping a coin, you would get 50% of the time heads and 50% of the time tails. But now we're interested in actually doing experiments and finding what an estimate of a probability might be. So in order to do that, we have to keep track of certain numbers, and we're going to come up with certain terms. So the first one that we're interested in is we're recording the number of trials of our experiment. So what does that mean? Number of trials means the total number of times that you will repeat your experiment. So in the case of the coins, you might flip a coin some number of times, and that would be the number of trials for that experiment. Our next quantity of interest is the outcomes. So outcomes means the different results that are possible for one trial of the experiment. So in the case of the coin flip, we have two different outcomes. Presumably we'd only have heads or we have tails, right? Those are the different possibilities. Okay, the next term that we're interested in is called the frequency. And frequency is the number of times that an outcome is observed. And this is with respect to a particular outcome. So of a particular outcome, the frequency is the number of times that the outcome is observed. So if we flipped the coin 100 times and we found that it was heads 49 of those times, well, then our frequency for that outcome heads would be 49. What would then be the frequency for the outcome tails? Well, clearly the answers must have been 51, right? Okay, so the last term that we're interested in is called the relative frequency. Okay, so what is relative frequency? That is the frequency for an outcome divided by the total number of trials. So we can actually write this here as an equation. Frequency divided by the number of trials. And this is ultimately the quantity that we're interested in for our estimation of probability. In the case of our example of coins, we found that 49 out of the 100 times that we flipped the coin were heads. So in our example, our relative frequency we would write as P for probability. Then we write our outcome inside brackets, and we would calculate it as 49 divided by 100. So we would have a probability of 0.49. We might read this as 49%, right, as our probability. Now, because we're dealing with an experimental value, to be more precise, we should actually be putting approximation signs here instead of equality signs. So these would be our kind of squiggly equal signs. And that's because we don't actually know what exactly this probability is in terms of a theoretical value. This probability is our estimate in terms of our experiment. All right, and that's it for this lesson.